Well, I think any place you can get your film shown is a place to launch a career if your film's good. I mean, I think that's kind of the bottom line. The line between indie and non-indie is totally blurred. I mean, I completely agree that it's basically was a fashion. It was a brand, and it was fueled by this kind. It was an independent bubble, much like the tech bubble. We had an indie bubble, and it burst pretty much. And we're all kind of picking up the pieces. And I'm trying to I'm actually one of those people that's trying to transform out of the indie world and become a sellout. So I can make movies, and I haven't been very successful at that. So I might go back to the indie world. Um, I was actually in Slam Dance. My first film was in Slam Dance, so we were sort of the counter to Sundance, and there was a lot of energy back then. We'd sneak into the parties, and it was all fun, and there were no gifting lounges, and we're all kind of a merry band of rogues back then in the mid '90s. And yeah, I haven't been back to Sundance for a couple of years. I know that it's a place to see films. And people get launched out of Sundance because if you make a good film, people are going to want to see it. Hopefully, there'll be distributors out there that still can pick up the film, and then you'll have a career. But that's the trick. How do you get the next one? What does it take to have a career in this business without making basically superhero movies? I mean, I look at all these great directors, and they're basically every actor has to have a superhero movie now. Everybody's got to wear tights, and I think Chris Nolan's a great example of somebody who is actually trying to straddle it, and we'll see if he can continue it.
I'm give this to you, Paul, but also one interesting thing about Sundance, they started a global cinema section several years ago, and a lot of people do feel that it's the best and most interesting section. And in a strange way, you have an advantage to come there because the global cinema is not as limiting as the American competition section. You can make I think, a more diverse kind of range of movies, and I think you can really make an impact. And I think there are better films coming from outside America and showing in Sundance.
My question is, what does actually commercial movie mean? Because does it refer to the money, to the producer, to the message we get? Because I feel like films are an art, and art cannot be discussed because it relates on everybody's taste. What does commercial actually means?
Paul, you have an answer?
Well, I think these are just market terms. I mean, commercial means it makes money.
That's all.
I mean, I had a producer. I was working on a rewrite of a Spanish film a couple years ago. And as I was working through it, I was doing my diligence and taking all the notes and translating it, for the American audience. And the producer one day walked in and said, "We really love what you're doing, but we want you to make it more commercial." And I said, "Okay, what do you want? You want more sex? You want more violence? You want more comedy?" "No, no, no, no. Everything you're doing is great. Just make it more commercial." And this went on for 5 minutes, and basically by the end of the meeting, I mean, I was young and stupid. I was thrown off the picture because I didn't understand what they wanted, and I still don't. But I mean, I guess I could have faked it a little better, and that's part of it. Is you got to fake it. And in terms of what makes a commercial movie, is a good movie that people go and buy tickets to, and that doesn't mean. And yes, there are, like Steve said earlier, there are ways that producers can push it down the commercial, pipeline, and that's by doing genre films. But I got to tell you, what are the great films that we love from American cinema? They're the genre films, the noir films. Those were the B-sides. We don't remember the A movies that people went to. These were the second films. All those great noir films were just throwaway movies, basically. So, I don't like labels because I don't think they really. I mean, I don't know what an independent movie is. An independent Sundance movie for me a couple of years ago was boring. If there's, I'm not saying all of them, but I'm just, if we're using generalities. So I don't think you can split the world indie versus commercial in that way any longer. I think there's a new paradigm out there. And we just got to think in a different way. Think about making good movies. And hopefully if they make money, then you'll get to make another movie. And hopefully if that makes money, then you'll get to make maybe a bad movie that you experimented with and your career won't end. You know, it's kind of one and out for a lot of people because once you've lost the trust of the money people, you're done. And if you're making movies for $15 to $20 million, they have a point. I mean, I look at, Charlie Kaufman made a very, very interesting film, but it probably cost twice as much as it should have, and it didn't make a lot of money. Now, Charlie's going to get another chance to make a movie because he's Charlie Kaufman, but it's going to take a little work, and he's probably not going to get the same amount of money as he did before.
I think that's probably about the best career advice for a young filmmaker, that you have to keep in mind if someone offers you $2 million to make a movie, a $2 million budget, but you really work with a good producer and a sales agent and they tell you that this picture will only bring in $1 million, you know, it's a really good script and it's commercial in a sense, and but it will not return this much money back from the marketplace. You have to take this very, very seriously, because if you make your first movie and you spend more money than you bring in, it will be very hard to make a second movie. You're better off saying no to more money and making the film for less, because the minute you make a film and you bring more money in than you spent, people will probably give you money to make another film. So there's a real responsibility. I think, we're all saying the same thing, that it's really about storytelling and telling a story that really reaches an audience. Someone said to me about European cinema, the key is to tell universal stories, but you tell a universal story without ever losing your local address. You can't try to tell a universal story and make it a universal story without having a local truth. And I think the great example is probably Florian, I never can pronounce his last name, Florian von Donnersmarck, The Lives of Others. The local address is very specific. It's East Germany, 1984. Do you know that everybody in Germany told him no when he wrote the script and would not give him the money? I know the gentleman on the Bavarian Film Board who told the film board, shut up, give him the money. You're all stupid. We give money out all the time to bad movies. This is really good. Trust me. Okay, so first he wrote the script and nobody wanted to give him the money. Then he made the movie and the Berlin Film Festival said, no, we don't want it. And then the Cannes Festival said, no, it's not good enough. It went on to win the Academy Award. It's the biggest German film, I think, maybe of all time in export. It has made his career. He's now directing a picture with Angelina Jolie and Johnny Depp. But there's a movie where it is a universal story about what happens when people have to lie to each other. What happens when the system demands that you not tell the truth and no one can be truthful. And it's set in a place that's very specific, East Germany, 1984, completely universal story. And by the way, as Paul said, the labels of independent or foreign film or European or studio are meaningless. That is a better written story than any Hollywood movie in the past year. And it's actually more like a 1940s Hollywood movie in the sense that he really pays attention to structure and detail and character development and conflict, and tells this story in a way that is absolutely universal.